Hey everyone, welcome to my blog. So today I'm going to be making this field note insert cover that I made using a placemat and some paint. So here it is a Harry Potter theme that I did, making kind of the silhouette of the castle, as well as I put some words on the front that I had major problems with. So if you are going to be doing words, do not use watercolor or water-based markers. I will show you how to do the bindings, everything like that. If you guys aren't interested in putting paint on your cover and just want to use the placemat, I will put down in the description where you can jump ahead to that part. Thanks for watching. So to do this project, what you're going to need is a placemat. Now I have already made one journal cover, this one here, out of a placemat, so some of it's already missing. And now what I did to make things easier is I have made myself a template, and it's just cut out of some extra cardstock that I had just sitting around, and I have just put the size reference on here that it's 8.75 inches by 6 inches. So you want 8 3/4 this way and 6 inches high, and this will fit your field notes or pocket sized inserts, because your pocket size and your field notes are 3.5 by 5.5 inches. So it gives you an extra 1/4 inch at each side here at the top and bottom. So then what I did with this was I have already cut this out, as you can see, and I had issues cutting it out, but I just usually lay this on top, mark out your corners or your edges. I then just cut it out with scissors, and that was it. And then afterwards you can look, make sure that it's, you know, as square as you can get it. I usually just lay it down on here, and I mean it's pretty darn close. I'm not looking for perfection here, so it's as good as it's gonna get. Anyways, and now we're gonna move on to the next step, which is going to be using your gesso. Okay, so for the gesso, I am using this Liquitex Basics acrylic gesso. So guys, all I do here really is I squirt some of the gesso on here, I paint it around with it, put some more on as you need it, just give it a nice good coat, and then you're going to want to let it dry in between the coats. So you're going to want to do 2 coats of the gesso because you can still see through to the placemat underneath. And you're going to want to do this on both the front and the back of your placemat, just because the back was more of a cream color. Now you're going to want to pick your paint. I'm using a bunch of just cheapy acrylic paints that I got at like Dollarama, Michael's, wherever I found them. Use whatever you have on hand and paint to whatever you want, really. I'm using the blue here on the back, and I only did 3/4 of the way down because I had a different idea in mind, changed it afterwards, and ended up painting the whole thing, both front and back, this blue color. So here I'm adding in some little purple splotches because I kind of wanted it to look like a night sky. Thought this would kind of help. It kind of did, but kind of also didn't in the end. I mean, it looked good enough for what I wanted it to look like. And I added in a little bit more blue in certain sections because it was actually getting quite purple. So now I'm going to be adding some gold splatter across the back here to kind of look like stars in the night sky. I'm going to give you guys one little piece of advice here. Don't do this at 2 o'clock in the morning when people are sleeping, because it's really hard to hit your paintbrush hard against your hand or against another object. I ended up using the end of my paintbrush, which you'll see here in a minute, and kind of dipping it all over my page in little dots, because the splatter it was not working at all. I mean, not at all. Okay, so now I finished doing the little dots, and no, I guess I didn't record that part, or I edited it out, or who knows what. I'm now trying the glitter paint, and I started doing little dots with actually my brush end here, and it worked somewhat. And then I started using the end of my brush, which I liked much better. So I got a much more consistent result. It just looked better. So after the back is dry, you're going to want to go to the front and draw your image, or do whatever you want to do on the front. I decided that I was going to draw an image of the Harry Potter castle that I had on my iPad screen there. So I used a ruler for a bit of it. I free drew a bit of it. I marked out, you know, some lines like where the center was and stuff like that. And I skipped through a bunch of this because it was kind of boring anyways. And I tried to keep things as close to the picture as possible, but it wasn't exactly the same, which I think makes it just a little bit more unique. Okay, so now I wanted to have a moon in my picture, so I am using a paint bottle lid to draw a circle. Because really, guys, use whatever you have. Now I'm using some white paint here, and sorry my head got in the shot a little bit because it was very hard to record and try to be straight over top of the painting. And I'm using some white to go over top of the moon portion. And after I finish painting out the circle here, which you guys, it is very difficult to paint a circle, or at least for somebody who's not that great of a painter. I, after that, decided to put a little bit of gold into it because I thought it just looked very, very stark against the blue background. Okay, so that glitter sparkle paint that I used on the back, I'm now using on the front to outline the night sky because I thought it would look much nicer with kind of like a glitter finish to it. So that's what I'm doing here, is kind of outlining the buildings, because I want to do that before I put the black paint on for the building, because I thought the black would cover up any glitter that I might have accidentally, of course accidentally, gotten on the building. Okay, so now I'm just grabbing some black paint here, and I am painting in the whole scene of Hogwarts there. I just try to be very careful around the edges. Use as small of a brush as you need. I used a pretty small one for the edges and then switched to a bigger one to fill in kind of the wide open space. So I skipped through most of the outlining and I just skipped ahead to the end here. Sorry that my head's in the shot again, but really it is hard to film and paint at the same time. So I'm doing the little gold dots in the night sky again here, just with the back end of my brush, and just kind of dipping it in my paint once and then making 3 little dots, so that way you get different sizes of dots. Some of them are tiny, some of them are bigger, and that way they actually look like stars in the night sky. Now I've grabbed out my Harry Potter book here because I am writing down the line here. I solemnly swear that I am up to no good. It is out of the 3rd Harry Potter book. It's the Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So here I am using a Studio G marker that is the color gold from Michaels. I would not recommend using this pen, as you'll see later that it is, I'm assuming, water-based and smeared all over my page. If you are going to be using a pen to write anything on it, I would suggest probably using a Sharpie marker, one of the oil paint ones. So I have 2 kinds of Mod Podge here. You can choose whichever one you want. I decided to use my glossy dishwasher safe just because that's the one I had. I'm not going to be putting this in my dishwasher, obviously, but it's just I have a huge tub of it. I might as well use it. So I don't know how well you guys can actually see this, but the gold marker actually smeared all across the black and it looked really sloppy. So I just decided that I was going to try to fix that and see if it looked a little bit better. My way of fixing this problem was to use my black acrylic paint and just paint right over top of that, because I did not want to try to trace out the words. That was just way too much work. So I just painted over both areas after my Mod Podge had dried so that I could try to fix it. So I've now done 2 coats of Mod Podge and let both of them dry, and I am now using the marker over top of that to see if that will work much better, and it did. I did try doing another layer underneath and doing Mod Podge on top again after letting it dry, and that didn't work either. So I just decided to do it straight on top and hopefully that will hold. And so far it has. It had no smears. Well, now you guys are getting another lovely view of my bangs up close and personal. Sorry for being in the shot again. So by this time in the lettering process, I had done this 3 times, so I did not put this in pencil first, and I probably should have, because as you can see here, my letters O and G are very close in my words no good. but I decided I was not painting over this thing again, not Mod Podging again. It's staying as is. So on the back side, I decided to put down Mischief Managed, as that's what Harry says when he's finished with the Martyrs map in the books. So that's what's going on the back here. Now, as you watch when I'm writing, I yet again did not use pencil first, and my letters actually end up going from, you know, kind of small to a little bit bigger. So I had to do some creative lettering in the end to try to make them all look the same size. Can you guys see how small that M in Managed is? I mean, really, what was I thinking? So this is part of the reason why I have a template, because I have the holes pre-punched already, so I can just go along with it. You're going to be using your Crop-O-dile with the 1/8 of an inch setting, and then you're going to put your template on the back side of your cover. Line it up, and then you're going to line up your holes. I usually try to look in the light because it's easier to see through, and punch them through. Now I'm doing a 3-hole punch with 3 bindings for this one. You could do a 2 if you want. You can do the traditional Midori style, which is one on top of another. It is totally up to you. This is just the style that I prefer. So most people put their elastic closure in the center, but my Crop-O-dile does not reach to the center, and I want to put an eyelet around it. So I'm punching it as far as my Crop-O-dile will reach in, which is about maybe 1 inch in. So now you're going to get out your 1/8 of an inch eyelets to go with your 1/8 of an inch holes. Each eyelet then gets put into one of these little holes with the nice part on the outside. I'm using the single eyelet so they're not the 2 pieces together. And then you use the settings that you look on your Crop-O-dile, and it'll tell you what settings to use for which kind of eyelets. So this one, I think I was using the B one, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but anyways, and you just squeeze it pretty firmly until you kind of feel it push down, and your eyelet is basically closed at that point. Okay, so now we're going to put in the elastic. Now for the middle part, you need at least 3 times the length of the book here. So you go in through the top right-hand hole, down the middle, out the bottom middle, then back into the bottom left, up to the top left, back through the middle closure again. So you're going to have 2 going through that middle closure, down through the middle bottom one again. So again, 2 through that one, and down through the bottom right-hand one. So now altogether, you should have 4 cords after it's tied. So you have 2 going down the middle string and 1 on each side. And you're going to tie these just into a normal knot. And you want them like a little tight, not super tight, but enough so your book bends in a tiny bit. Then for the outside closure, you're going to take at least double, or I guess the whole length of the front cover here if it's open, tie it in a knot. You put it through the hole from the back to the front, close your book, and then you're going to see if it actually fits all the way around. Mine was a little loose, so all I did was take it out. I undid the elastic, and then I retied it a little bit closer together so that it would close a little bit better, and it worked the second time. I was having super hard time getting the knot undone here. So this one worked much better. It was just perfect to go around. The last thing I'm doing here is trimming those 2 inside elastics, as I had a little bit too much hanging off the ends of them. And that's it for your book.